All right, so this is going to be hopefully a short video on how to graph standard form. So standard form I call the strange form because it's unlike the other ones. The two forms that you're mostly familiar are with something that looks like this. That's slope-intercept. You're familiar with something that looks like this, and that's point-slope. There are two other ones where you have just x equals a number and y equals a number. And those are silly because they are missing an x or a y, like they only have one letter in them. But either way, like you've got a letter alone equal to something, a letter alone equal to something. You got one letter here, you got one letter here, and the x is typically on the other side. And that's not at all the case of that first one, right? So the one that we're looking at right now shows us that the x and the y are on the same side. So when x and y are together on the same side of the equal sign, that's standard form. The true standard form, like the generic version, looks like this. We don't need to know that really, but maybe you want to see it. Just like the generic version of slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. So when you see something in standard form, a nice little strategy that works, and again, I'm sorry I'm not telling you all the backstory, there's a whole reason, and normally that's the way I teach it, but you're probably watching this video and you're just saying, show me how to do it. No problem. So here's your procedure for graphing standard form. First, you want to split your equation into two, and all you're going to do is take a look at what's between the x and the y, and that's where you're going to separate. So you're going to separate this from this, same exact answer. So split your equation into two, then you're going to solve it. So split and solve, and then you're going to graph your two y-intercepts, and we'll go over, two intercepts. And we'll come back to this in a second. So I've got my equation. I recognize that it's in standard form. So right off the bat, I'm going to split into two. So the first equation is going to be the first variable equal negative 12. That's what's on the other side. And now I'm going to split it away from the other equation. So notice I used to have one equation with two letters in it. And now I have two equations with just one letter in it. And I'm going to tackle them totally separately. Imagine that this equation isn't here and focus just on this one. So if you were solving this equation, the x is with negative 3. They're connected by multiplication, which I undo by division. And I'm going to solve, and you get x equals 4. So again, I didn't change anything. The 3x had a minus sign with it. I brought that along. The 12 had a minus sign. I brought that along. I changed nothing. I just pretended like that y wasn't there. And there's my equation. Divide both sides by 3x equals 4. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the other equation. At least that's what I mean, we could do one thing at a time, but I'm just going to solve the other one. Divide both sides by 2 since y needs to be alone, and it's with 2. Divide both sides by 2, and you get x, or y equals negative 6. It is really, really important that you keep the letters in there. This we solved for x. This we solved for y. So once you split it into two equations and solve it, we're going to graph the intercept. So if you remember, an intercept is a point that lives either on this line or on this line. How do you know which one? And that's why that letter is so important, because there are two axes. This is the x, right here, this way. That's the y, and that's why the letters are so important, because the letters tell you which part of the grid to go on. So if I graph x equals 4, I go to on the x-axis, where x is 4. I find y-axis and go to where y is negative 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is down here. So this is where y was negative 6. This is where x was 4. I only need 2 dots to make a line, so I have my 2 dots. So connect and go, and that's literally it. So to go through the procedure real quick again, take your equation, chop it up into two pieces. This equation equals negative 12. This equation equals negative 12 as if the other letters didn't exist. Solve individually, keeping the letter in mind. Whatever the letter is, that's where you plot a dot on that particular axis. So x-axis 4 goes a dot. Y-axis, like a y-intercept, that's where the dot goes. then connect them, and then you're all set. It's as easy as that. Hope that helps. If not, find me and I'll help you out.